Second year Minnesota Vikings to look out for. The Vikings had a great draft in 2019. Now, of course, there was no star players really drafted. We had some players that came in and looked really well, though. We didn't take any big players. I mean, this year we took bigger players. We got, of course, Jeff Gladney, not even going to be starting, and then Justin Jefferson, who's going to probably be a playmaker going forward. We're going to be talking about all of these moves made by the Vikings, and we're going to be talking about second-year Vikings that you have to look out for, that you will see you saw in 2019, but you will see them in 2020, a lot more action from them. And it was a great draft. It was a great draft, even though there was no like star players, of course, other teams, the Redskins drafted Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown to the Titans. A lot of teams had big players. Vikings had a good draft, even though we didn't have any star players. Now, if some of these players are going to become stars, though, is my prediction. Last year, we saw Alexander Mattison look great. Alexander Mattison can possibly be the starting running back going forward for the Minnesota Vikings after this 2020-2021 season, when Dalvin Cook will probably be gone. Alexander Mattison could become the starting running back. We could be seeing a lot more from him, as well as Irv Smith Jr., who's right now our backup tight end, but really he's also a starting tight end because they run a lot of two tight end sets with Kyle Rudolph. He could also be a starter in the future. So these are all players that you're going to be seeing a lot of from this year, and watch out for these players because they can be stars for the Minnesota Vikings. Starting off, we're going to be talking about Dru Samia. Now, Dru Samia is a player who is a right guard. Right now, Dakota Dozier, I think he's a right guard. I think that's his main, right guard. He can also play left guard. I would like to see Dru Samia fill in for Pat Elflein. Not even fill in for Pat Elflein, but take his job. Pat Elflein, holding fouls was insane last year. He let everybody through. Holding fouls was crazy. I said they should not have cut him. Obviously, they didn't cut him, but I said that they needed to bench him, not start him anymore. They needed someone to step into that role. Now, Dru Samia, we did see some of them last year, and it was really interesting to see. A lot of players who can play right guard can also play left guard, so I would like to see him do that, as well as Dakota Dozier. Dakota Dozier is a good backup. I think Dru Samia, from what I've seen, he's also a backup, but giving him that starting role, he could be better than Dakota Dozier, because Dakota Dozier also looks like a backup. Like I've been saying, our offensive line, no starters outside of Brian O'Neill, they all look like backup pieces, really. So there's a lot of depth for the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, but no great players outside of Brian O'Neill. So Dru Samia stepping into that starting role is a possibility. We saw him play great last year. It's a possibility for him to step in for Pat Elflein and Dakota Dozier. So watch out for Dru Samia. If he looks good, this is going to be scary for the Vikings, and this is awesome if Dru Samia does look good. And another player we're going to be talking about, Armon Watts. Armon Watts is an interior defensive lineman. He can play nose tackle. He can play anywhere else. He is great against the run. Now, of course, that's what the Minnesota Vikings need help on a lot. We can get to the passer all right. Vikings can definitely get to the passer with Afadio Denebo, Danielle Hunter. Even though Danielle Hunter is out, we can still get to the passer without blitzing, or they could blitz. You could see more of Anthony Barr being blitzed. You could see more of Harrison Smith being blitzed. Vikings don't even need to blitz, though. We have, of course, Yannick Ngakoue, and we have Afadio Denebo, and then Danielle Hunter when he comes back. Who knows when that's going to be, but we can get to the passer without blitzing. So Armon Watts is a great piece for the Vikings. He's not a big pass rusher, but he is a big run stopper, and that's exactly what the Vikings need on their interior side of the line. Last year, like I've been saying, we have been bad at it. Shamar Stephen was awful against the run. Linval Joseph did bad against the run, which is surprising because he was one of the best run stoppers some years ago. So last year, him being bad against the run was crazy. Jaleel Johnson and Jalen Holmes also looked good against the run, and those are players that you're also going to be seeing more of. Armon Watts is a second-year player for the Vikings, and I would like to see more of him, maybe even starting. Who knows? He might be a starter. He might take Shamar Stephen's job. I would like to see that happen. He might even be the nose tackle. Now, of course, Michael Pierce opted out, so of course we have Jaleel Johnson and we have Armon Watts. One of them are going to be the nose tackle, and both I think would be a good fit, and I would like to see Armon Watts a lot more. I want to see him step up. I want to see him play a lot better, and that would mean a lot for the Vikings defensive line because we need help on that interior side stopping the run, which really held us back last year, especially when we're in a division who now has Adrian Peterson. Now, Adrian Peterson, he had a good season with Washington. I don't think he's any bit of a threat. They also drafted DeAndre Swift. A lot of people are saying DeAndre Swift was the best running back coming out of college. I disagreed. I liked my I did like what's his name? Dude from Wisconsin. Now, I'm not a Wisconsin Badgers fan at all, but what's his name? I'm missing it right now. When I look at this video later, I'm gonna be remembering. But anyways, he was my favorite. Jonathan Taylor. I was thinking Johnson was his last name. Jonathan Taylor, great running back. I liked him. He went to the Colts, which is actually a better fit than him going for the Lions. So and then obviously Aaron Jones, and then Bears have a bad run game. So we're in a division with a tough run teams. We have two running teams that we need to be good against. We need those divisional wins because we didn't have them last year. I think we only had divisional wins against the Lions, which that's not impressive at all. We need to be good against that run. Aaron Jones killed us last year, and we were killed against Kansas City. Damian Williams killed us on the run. That's crazy. We need help against that run, and Armon Watts can really bring that to the Vikings, so watch out for him. I would love to see it happen. He can really bring that. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about Garrett Bradbury. Garrett Bradbury, I've been saying, is not a bust yet. A lot of people like to grade rookies off of their rookie season. Rookie seasons don't mean a whole lot when it comes to some positions. Offensive lineman and corner, you can't get mad at people for having a bad rookie debut because it's so hard to go from college to the NFL. It's a big jump. Offensive line, you're playing against players who've been in the NFL forever. You see Dru Samia going against Kenny Clark. How do you expect, not Dru Samia, Garrett Bradbury going against Kenny Clark. How do you expect Garrett Bradbury to win? I know he's a very athletic guy. He looks really fit to be a center, and he's a great player when he was in college. Now, he didn't have a great rookie debut, but he is a center. He has time to develop. Offensive line, it's really hard for them to get used to it. Corners, they're going against amazing wide receivers. It's really tough for them to get used to the NFL as well. Those two positions, going forward, they have time to develop. As if they're athletic, if they have the right mindset, they can be great. And Garrett Bradbury can still be great with the right mindset, and he's already super athletic. So Garrett Bradbury is a player you have to watch out for. Hopefully he can look better than he did last season. I don't think he looked that bad last season. A lot of people would disagree. I think he looked okay. But going forward, I think that he has time to improve. I know he has time to improve, of course. And I think that he very well improved. He will improve because he's very athletic. And with the right mindset, he can definitely look better and solidify himself as a starting center. He's only had 1 year, and this is going to be his second season, and I think he's going to look a lot better than he did last season. And then seasons going forward, he will continue to look better because that's what you usually see with offensive linemen. And then we're going to be talking about Irv Smith Jr., a player I've been loving. He's going to be the breakout Viking of the year. Irv Smith Jr. last year, I love this guy. He can do everything you want from a center or up from a tight end. He can block. Of course, you need that. He can make runs. He can make plays after the catch. He can run great routes. This guy is great. I love Irv Smith Jr., and he is probably going to be our starter in the future, our starting tight end. Now, him sitting behind Kyle Rudolph is a great spot for him to be. Kyle Rudolph is a very mature tight end who has been in the league for a long time, played with 9 different quarterbacks. That's insane. Kyle Rudolph has played with 9 different quarterbacks and has looked good with all of them. Kyle Rudolph is an amazing tight end, but with that being said, he has time to come. His time is coming, and he will probably have to let Irv Smith Jr. take over some years to come. I would say Kyle Rudolph has another 4 years left in him, though. So Irv Smith Jr., after his rookie contract, I think he will be the starting tight end for the Vikings, assuming that everything goes well, assuming he doesn't have great, big injuries, assuming he still looks good. I think he will because Irv Smith Jr. lit it up in Alabama. He had a great year in Alabama, a great 2 years in Alabama, and him last year with the Vikings, although he didn't get as many targets, he did look great. He did everything that you wanted him to do, and we're going to be continuing to see a lot of 2 tight end sets, so you're going to see a lot of Irv Smith Jr., and he's an X factor for the Vikings. Irv Smith Jr. and CJ Ham are 2 big X factors for the Vikings. Of course, we lost Stephon Diggs, and we brought in Justin Jefferson. So you look at the targets that Kirk Cousins has, everyone looks at, of course, Dalvin Cook. Everyone looks at Adam Thielen, and they look Kyle Rudolph. Those are the only targets people see from the Vikings. After that, we have a lot of X factors. Justin Jefferson inside the slot is going to be scary. Bisi, I can't say Bisi on outside is going to be much of a threat at all. I'm a huge fan of him, but I can't say that's going to be much of a threat. CJ Hammond is blocking, Irv Smith in his his route running. It's going to be great. He's a big X factor. You're going to be seeing a lot of Irv Smith, and I think he will have a breakout year for the Vikings. With that being said, I don't think he's going to be I don't think he's going to be anything crazy. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of targets, but in the future, you're going to be seeing a lot more of Irv Smith as he develops. He's looking great, and I'm a huge fan of Irv Smith, and I think he's going to be the greatest draft pick from this draft in the coming years. And then, of course, we have to talk about Bisi. Bisi, you're going to be seeing a lot of this guy. I don't think Bisi is going to get a whole lot of targets. He was named the starting wide receiver, which is crazy. This guy was a 7th-round draft pick in 2019. 7th round, drafted behind Dillon Mitchell, mind you. Dillon Mitchell was drafted before Bisi. Dillon Mitchell looked terrible. And then Alexander Mattison went undrafted. That was a great year for the Vikings. When it comes to wide receivers, Alexander Mattison and Bisi are both like, they had to give up nothing for them, and they both look great. Alexander Mattison, of course, is on the practice squad, though, but still, he can come up. I think Alexander Mattison can work on his hands. His route running ability is great, and he will develop to from time to come. But Bisi being named the starting wide receiver was a big shocker for me. I've been saying they need to start Justin Jefferson inside the slot. A lot of people will disagree because it was a first-round draft pick, but I've been saying Justin Jefferson inside the slot is the best position for him to go. He played in the slot in college and was probably he was one of the best wide receivers in LSU of all time. And that's crazy considering all of the wide receivers that have come out of LSU. And he did all of that inside the slot, a number 3 receiver. Now him going to the Vikings, he should be more of the same. You can't grab a player from college, especially in the first round, and say, all right, we're moving you over here and we expect you to be as good as you were in college. You can't do that to him. You want him to have a slow start. Players coming into the NFL, like Justin Jefferson, you want them to have a slower start, which is why I don't think Justin Jefferson is going to get as many targets as people do think. He's a great receiver. He's an amazing blocking receiver, and that's really what you would like to see from a slot receiver, considering we have Dalvin Cook, who needs those blocks from that slot receiver, Justin Jefferson. And this is going to be great for the Vikings. Bisi, I do not think is going to have as many targets as people would think. He is the starting wide receiver, and last year filled in amazing for Adam Thielen. And when Adam Thielen went down last year, we had that question mark at wide receiver because, of course, Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs were great wide receivers, but we didn't know who was going to fill in for them. Laquan Treadwell, terrible wide receiver. He tried filling in, and he got 1 touchdown, and that was because he was wide open, and no one even thinks about covering Laquan Treadwell. So, of course, Bisi won the job over Laquan Treadwell as that wide receiver to fill in for Adam Thielen and filled in really well. Now, with that being said, I've been saying I don't think Bisi is a starting wide receiver at all. Of course, he was named the starting wide receiver, but when I think of a starting wide receiver, I think that they're going to get a lot of targets. I don't think Bisi is going to get many targets at all. I do think he will still get some, but, well, of course he'll get some, but there's too many playmakers on offense that have way more reliability than Bisi Johnson, which you should watch for Bisi, though. If Bisi looks good going forward, him being a starting wide receiver for time to come will be great. I thought it was going to be Tajay Sharp being our left wide receiver. It came by a shock to me that Bisi was named it. I did not think it was going to be Justin Jefferson. I felt like him being inside the slot was the best role for him to go, but Bisi being named the starting wide receiver was a big shock and a surprise, and that's enjoyment to me. I'm a huge fan of that. I think Bisi being a starting wide receiver for time to come can actually be great. When it comes to the season, though, he won't be getting many targets, and I don't think that he will be anything crazy, but watch out for him. Watch out for him for time to come. And all of these players, these second-year Vikings that I've just talked about, watch out for them for time to come. Armon Watts, he can step into that starting role. Dru Samia can step into that starting role. Alexander Mattison, I didn't talk about him really, but Alexander Mattison, this year I wouldn't watch out for him a whole lot, but for years to come, I think he might be named the starting running back for the Vikings, and that could look good for him. Garrett Bradbury, watch out. Irv Smith and Bisi. You're going to be seeing a lot more from these two players this year, and that was a great draft for the Vikings. Let me know what y'all think about this.